everyone, welcome to Existential Gamers live stream. I am the Existential Gamer, and I'm joined today by returning guests, Jose Veliz. How are you doing, sir?
Hello. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. It's been a tiring day, but I'm still alive. We're playing Chrono Trigger again today. This is the 7th day. It's an RPG game. What do you expect? But yeah, I'm relatively enjoying this. I'm just kind of a little lost right now at the moment. But I'm sure we got some things to talk about, right?
Oh yeah.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
Yeah, cool. So I wanted to talk today to you about biofabricated materials. So I actually wanted to kind of preface this going back a little bit. So I remember watching, I don't know how old I was, but it was something like in high school probably or something like that. I was into anime. And I would watch it on like Funimation or something, some local channel. I think Funimation was doing something at the time. And at some point I came across an anime called Eureka 7. Now at the time,
That sounds familiar.
it's a mecha anime about like this kid that like doesn't the only family he has is like his grandpa, and then this like mech comes out of the like sky and crashes into like his grandpa's business or whatever, and then he goes on this like journey with this ragtag group of what's it called, not terrorists but like eco-terrorist kind of thing group.
Huh.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't pay too much attention to the whole like eco thing because I didn't even know like anything about the environment. But watching that when I was however old I was led me to take a environmental studies class in high school, and I think it was in like my senior year. So I learned a little bit about like the environment and took some stuff from like biology, so stuff that I'd already learned about through science and whatnot. And it was really interesting, but I was never like super into like chemistry or like math. Oh, plus I wasn't really good at that stuff anyway. But throughout my life I haven't paid too much attention to those kinds of things like the environment and whatnot. And at some point I started to. I think it began in like college. When I was trying to be a little bit, I wasn't trying to be, I was just a little bit more conscious about like the environment and like our impact and our footprint and all that stuff. But at the time I didn't really like understand like the severity of it, as far as like global warming and whatnot. And I never bothered to look into it. But once I did learn that stuff, and like learning about like how much damage we've already done to the environment and the damage we continue to do, as a species, not just like one person.
Yeah.
I tried to think like, I should probably stop doing this and do this more and blah blah blah, and like things that I individually could do. But I couldn't really keep up with those things. I found it really difficult. One thing that some people would gravitate towards, like being vegan, like consuming less like meat, because of cattle farms and like what that produces. Yeah, and it was like, okay, yes, you're doing something, but is that something really like to the scale that it could actually affect anything? Like, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
it's just to help you make you feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I kept like I was making sort of these conscious decisions every now and then. Like, when I'd go out to eat, if there was like an option to have like a dairy alternative, I'd go for the dairy alternative. But it was never like a health thing, I was like, I don't really, I feel fine, I'm all right. I don't need to lose weight or anything. But anyway, so all of this, and then I'm on Netflix one day, and I'm just like looking. I'm trying to get inspiration for like my career or something, and I look up design to see if there's anything. Because I remember watching like documentaries and stuff in college about design, and I was like, oh, I wonder if any of them are on like Netflix. I couldn't find any that were like strictly like what I was studying, which was graphic design. But I found this one called Abstract, and it was called The Art of Design. And I was super like blown away by everything. Like I loved that it was like it said The Art of Design, and immediately thought, oh, it must be about graphic design. No, it was about like interior design, stage design, shoe design at some point. It was, it covered so many different things, and I was like, wow, design is like this huge umbrella of things, if you could even call it an umbrella. And one of those episodes...
Did you watch the whole series?
Yes, I watched it all.
I've
actually watched it all twice.
Oh, that's good.
I hope I remember all of it, but
Okay.
my memory's not always great. But yeah, I got to like, I think it was like the second season, and it was like the second and third episode where they introduced Neri Oxman, who is an alumni of MIT, and she talked about like her journey and the projects she was working on, and they talked about biofabrication, and it was a completely new concept to me, but at the same time, the concept of it felt familiar. And it actually reminded me, I can't remember the name of the anime, but there was an anime. This always goes back to anime.
You
I swear
weeb.
I'm not a weeb.
I'm over here playing a JRPG. You weeb.
But there was this one scene I remember, and it's supposed to be like the future. I guess humanity, we've like destroyed most of us, but like nature's thriving or whatever. And these students come across this thing that they think is a deer, and they haven't really seen animals because they've been in this like very secluded like town, and they approach this thing, and it's a creature, but it speaks to them as if it were a machine. Like a walking, talking library of knowledge, and as they're talking to it, you can kind of see like the details of the thing, and it very much looks organic, but the way it functions and the way it speaks and the way like they interact with this thing, it's very much a computer, like almost like an Alexa. And part of like the lore of that is like, oh, humanity kind of like evolved its technology to become organic. So like computers became eventually evolved to become organic, and it kind of was like reminding me of how right now we're thinking about like how to augment like our own bodies and our own like capabilities with like extra arms, with like suits that increase our strength, or even like our endurance, or like implants, right? Getting toward that where like we're integrating technology into like physically into our bodies, and it just made me think of like that could be like where technology is going, in that kind of direction. And part of that, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because seeing this whole biofabrication thing, right? We're using technology to, take things we find in nature, that are sustainable, and then taking them and using them to replace something that we're currently using that isn't sustainable.
And so honestly, like, I find it interesting because when we look at a lot of like fictional media, right? Or fictional, just in general, the future is always this like Superman, like super cyberpunk, man-made, plastic metal, all this stuff. But it's like, if we really were advancing, don't you think we'd go away from that,
It's crazy to think that too, that even in like our fiction, our fiction is very much based around this like old idea that we'd have flying cars and like we'd be traveling through space and all this stuff, maybe teleportation and like maybe cybernetic implants and blah blah blah. And most of the time it's viewed in the light of like a dystopia. Like if you look at even Cyberpunk 2077, like
Yeah.
it's a dystopia, right? Um, even though like sometimes it can feel like we currently live in a dystopia, you know?
It's just our I would argue that it's more of just that our brains is just trying to cope with something we don't agree with, and so we sometimes we tend to over exaggerate it. Not that it's not bad, but it's, I mean, if you go through history, you could say every period was almost a dystopia in a sense.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and people argue, you know, they want to like someday reach a utopia and everything. The word utopia, I mean, it just means not place, because it's just not a place. It's like not a thing you can do, you know. So
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a matter of perspective.
Speaking of like cyberpunk, I don't remember where I saw it exactly, but it going through this rabbit hole of like sustainability and like biofabrication and stuff led me to see an article that was talking about how like, oh, is this thing called solar punk replacing cyberpunk? And so yeah, solar punk. It's very small. I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't even consider it honestly an art movement yet, because I just don't think there is enough of it out there. But basically, what it is, it's similar to cyberpunk, as in it's a vision of the future, but instead it's a vision of the future that is very much in trying to embody this idea of that hopefully in this actual future, in this solar punk future, we would have solved things like the environmental impact we've caused on the planet, that we've found a way to coexist with the environment and even thrive alongside the environment ourselves, and still have this like sort of technological future, but with growing almost with the planet in a sense. And so if you look up like solar punk art, a lot of these illustrations are almost always like landscapes of like there are still like maybe flying cars, but it's not like combustion or like jet engines or whatever. Sometimes it's like propellers or something, or like maybe the ships are powered by solar energy or something like that. But it's interesting in the sense of like, for me, cyberpunk was like this hope for the future that we would create really awesome things, like things that are just like, that seem very much out of reach right now, but that at some point it could become like something that would be like, can you believe like we made this, kind of thing. But solar punk goes completely different direction, and it's more of like, I hope we solve the problems that we currently have. And then that's what it feels like. It feels like, oh, in this world or in this future, this fake future, that we have solved world hunger, and we have solved our differences, and we have solved, at least the environmental issues, hopefully. But it's cool, it's cool seeing that, and it's cool seeing just how many companies, like recently, Adidas came out with a shoe. It was like a short thing, and it was just like basically just more like a concept project, to be honest. But they partnered with Milo, which is they call themselves an unleather alternative or whatever, or like a leather alternative company, and they make leather out of mycelium, which is like the base of
the mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Yeah. And they came out with a shoe that had that as like a material that they used with the shoe. So they didn't use leather, they used this Milo stuff. And that was really cool to see, because it, at least from what I've seen, following all these different companies that are making like different materials out of like mangoes and like, mycelium, so like other stuff. None of them had really, like, they've made really cool things, but they've never like partnered with a whole lot of like big companies, like fashion brands, because it feels like in order to make this really, at least in the public eye, I feel like more of a mainstream thing, like you really have to get it in front of these big brands that people already know and have like their own opinions of them, to kind of push this into the spotlight. because like no one's really talking about like, oh my gosh, this jacket's made out of like mushrooms. Isn't that crazy? Like no one's talking about that yet, right?
Yeah, like on Joe Rogan, that there was that one mushroom guy that came, like he studies mushrooms, and he had a hat made out of mushrooms. And he was saying like, yeah, we want to start making a lot of more clothes. He said the only downside is that yeah, it catches on fire really easily. That was interesting though.
Just don't roast marshmallows by an open fire, I guess. Yeah, no, it is another thing. I don't think I've ever considered like the negative effects of like all these different like materials and stuff. Like mango, it's like the mango skins or whatever. It's like, okay, well, like does that like degrade a lot faster than leather? You know, some people like to say like leather ages really well. You know, that's why they like getting leather couches, because even an old leather couch still looks better than like, you know, any other type of couch the same age.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's stuff to me, like digging into this, like it's so cool. Like even though I don't always understand the whole process of like how
Just
they do
seeing
it.
yeah.
Yeah, because there's tons of videos of like all these different companies, because they use that to like promote their stuff to like investors and whatnot, where they'll take you a tour of their, you know, operation. There was another company. Oh, right. Ecovative. Ecovative Design. They're a company that makes alternatives to styrofoam using mycelium, and they actually currently have like contracts with like actual companies where they send this stuff out, and it's really freaking cool because like there's a difference where like, oh, you're wearing something, you know, like you don't ever like we still haven't had the conversation about like what happens when that thing is of no longer use to you, you know. Because that's like the big, like one of the other impacts. It's like, okay, if you wear something or use something, what happens when you no longer need it, or it is lost whatever value it had? You know, what do you just put it in the ground? Like what happens to that? You know, it's got to go somewhere, and most of the time things go into a landfill, right? Or they get burned or something, or hopefully they get recycled. But even that is like, doesn't really stop people from producing more and more things, even if they're made out of recycled material. You know, it's still here, it's just you know, hopefully being reused. But the way the styrofoam works is like literally, it's like, yeah, literally just take it, like pull it apart and like just put it on top of the ground, and there you go, that's it. You know, you're good. It's gonna freaking decompose like pretty fast, you know, and you won't see it. I think it was like I forget the actual timeline, but it's something like a week, and it's done, you know, which is amazing because you don't have to worry about like, basically you don't have to worry about having to dispose of it, because it can go anywhere, you know, anywhere there's dirt everywhere. So and another thing, I don't remember if they're the ones that were working on this, but there was another company, and I think this is you know, we're kind of seeing like at least in this space, the limitations of certain materials. They're trying to make basically an alternative to concrete using mushrooms. And
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
It's really cool. It is really awesome, especially because I think they've also gotten it to where they can use, I don't know if it was that specific material, but there's a company that was able to like put that mix into like this machine, like this crane that was powered. So it's basically a 3D printer, but for buildings. And it would just put this stuff out, and like it would kind of, you know, it not build itself, but you know, to some extent, which is really cool. But obviously you could do that with just like regular concrete, so it's not like huge thing. But the problem with this mushroom concrete is that it doesn't hold up to the same like stresses that concrete can, which really does suck. But they're getting there, right? They're trying to get to that point where it can be as strong, if not even stronger, in some cases. But I think if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was this same project or some other project, but probably some other team was working on repairing concrete. Because one of the issues with concrete is, you know, as the earth, you know, fluctuates or whatever, like it you know, we have earthquakes. Yeah, exactly, the cracks. and repairing that. I mean, you've seen like cracks on the road and stuff, right? We use kind of like this mixture to seal those cracks up. um, but we always have to go out ourselves and like do it,
Yeah.
um, and so with this type of concrete, um, it would work differently in the sense that you would literally just have to spray water or wait for it to rain, and then it could repair itself with that.
Yeah. That'd be really
With
cool.
water,
Yeah, like,
nuts.
and in that episode, by the way, guys, I did watch the episode that he's talking about as well, because I'm a good little boy and do my homework. But that part where they were talking about the silkworms and having them like build stuff in it, that was just like really cool too. Like, it kind of reminds me of what you're saying right now with the mushroom concrete. Like, all that in general is just really cool. I would love to see that.
Yeah, like with our guidance and like assistance, right? Like, is nuts.
Or
And
even the bee thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And what I think the thing that like excites me the most about all these things is just how fast and how varied all these different things are. All these approaches to like similar problems about like replacing or making things sustainable. Like, there are people out there that are literally like scrounging and like picking up anything, algae, seaweed, like whatever they can find, and trying to find a way to like use it to create materials that are sustainable. And it's nuts how many different companies there are out there, like little small businesses that are just propping up out of nowhere, and doing all these really cool stuff, which kind of makes me feel like similar to how right now, like, there's this big like electric car boom. There's like all these companies trying to make all these electric cars, and even the ones that didn't have electric cars to begin with are trying to make them now. It feels like it's going to get to a point where like you couldn't do anything on your own car, because like regular mechanic knowledge isn't going to be enough anymore. At some point, you're going to need to know like more of the tech side of like an electric car to be able to fix it.
Yeah.
That might be a little scary. But I'm wondering if like kind of the same thing using all these other materials, that it's going to take like, different, like not necessarily like knowledge, but I'd say like different skills that you'd have to like learn in order to like be able to do these things. But it's stuff's really cool. I've even like bothered to like look up these companies and see if they're hiring, and like, well, what can I do here? But like, man, do I need to go back to school and like learn chemistry and stuff? Like, man. But it's so cool. Yeah. And what's it called? Another thing that people kind of haven't really thought of. I feel like a lot of these companies are kind of targeting specific things, right? Like the whole concrete, it's a big business, packaging materials, right? The whole styrofoam thing, big business.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with marijuana, right? Like with Hertz Castle and the newspaper business, paper business, which was owned by Hertz. They were gonna start making paper out of hemp plants, and like Hertz worked with another guy and was just like, hey, we can't have that, it's gonna mess with our business. Let's push out a little thing. And that's why they associated marijuana with like being a bad thing, because they associate with Mexicans, and they're saying that Mexicans are the reason, like they smoke marijuana and they do a lot of bad stuff, so you don't want to be like the Mexicans, don't smoke marijuana. And they like destroyed that whole business. Like they didn't want that to happen. And that's why marijuana became illegal, and like people are fighting back for it now. I don't smoke marijuana, I don't care for that shit, but I would love to see marijuana be used for products and stuff like that, like other stuff like paper and all that.
Yeah, all its different applications.
Yeah,
that's nuts. Yeah, no, I guess I never really thought of that. I wonder if they'd like do the same thing with mushrooms, be like, hey, people, those crazies
crazy
eat
guys on the
mushrooms.
mushrooms.
Yeah, you don't want to be like them. You don't want to shoot up the school.
Yeah. You want to shoot up a school. They would do that though. That's the scary part. Right? It's scary that they would actually do that. But the thing is, that's why we have to have more educated people to notice those kind of things, to be more open, to be like, I think you're bullshitting me. Like, it's just like to be aware of that shit.
Yeah, that just reminds me of like how easy some people get like baited to retweet something or reblog something, and then they find out later that it's fake.
Yeah.
Like just recently, what was it, like Billie Eilish? Like someone had
Turn back
released
now.
like
It's not safe. I'm just saying. By the way, that boss fight I just beat. I was struggling with that for a couple of you know, I died 2 times. I don't know if you saw that. But you were saying, sorry, I was just reading somebody's comment. Wow, that guy just killed himself.
Jeez. Wait, he can swim now.
He just committed suicide.
Committed Sudoku.
Sudoku. Seppuku.
But yeah, anyway, so stuff, social media, blah blah blah. Right, where I was getting to was that, like, because of how broad all these different applications for all these different materials have been, some of it has like had me kind of thinking about what it could do to like our sort of local environments, right? So, and I don't mean environment as in like, oh, nature and stuff. I mean like where we live, you know, and where we hang out, where we work and all that stuff. So our current infrastructure landscape, right, here in the US and actually all over the world really, a lot of it, at least in places where there are a lot of cars, is very car centric, right? Like here we have freeways and highways and roads, you know, parking lots, parking structures, all this stuff.
But the history behind that is really funny too. But continue.
Yeah, I don't know. It's good. God, there's so much into every like little thing, huh? Like
yeah,
it really is.
But that's life, right? Remember when we talked about that when me and him went on a bike ride? It's just that like you can keep looking into a place, into any topic, and you can just keep going down more and more and more and more and more. I just got one shot. Jesus God. But anyways, you continue your saying. I think it's funny that it's always so much to talk about.
Oh man, were you supposed to get one shot?
Yeah, you can only have like 999 health, so.
Jeez. Right. So because of that, you know, there's been pushes like in local government bodies and even some national and stuff, at least here in the U.S., to push for like better, you know, public transit infrastructure and better like programs to like, or not programs, sorry, better just projects to help like us be less dependent on our cars, because obviously that's polluting, and like that is a decent chunk of you know, global pollution. You know, definitely not good for the environment. But you know, one of those things is like our kind of car culture that we have. You know, it feels like everyone has to have a car in order to do anything, and it's because that infrastructure isn't there, right? And even if it is there, you know, it's stigmatized in a way. You know, people don't trust buses. They feel like buses are used by unsavory types, you know, and you know,
you gotta be near strangers and all that.
Yeah. But like in other parts of the world, you know, it's different, right? It's not viewed as that. Like me taking a train here is completely different from me taking a train in like Japan, for example. You know, for them, it's like a regular thing. Yeah, that's how you get to work. Like, what do you mean? Like, why would I not take the train? You know, and here people are like, I don't want to take the train. That's weird. You know, like, and I feel like part of it might be just because like we kind of have this dependency on it, but also it's, if you're in any kind of situation where you're like, oh, I want to go here instead, like you couldn't make that decision very easily here. You know, you can be like, oh, hey, I actually wanted to go to this mall instead after work. It'd be really hard for you to make that decision because the trains only run so late and they only run so often, and you know that might be your only option, and you don't want to freaking have to spend $75 on an Uber, you know, just to get home. Like that's crazy. And it's nice to have that car because you're like, I could take this car anywhere. You know, like I can go anywhere. I don't have to worry about it. And
they actually have some studies of why, like some research to kind of talk about why. Hey, it's Trunks.
Whoa.
Why it's more, you know, like why the whole car thing, you know, over here in the West, while in the Eastern it's more, you know, they do more of that bus and all that stuff, public transportation. And they say is that this Western civilization is more of individualistic, right? We're more of like, you know, everyone's kind of on their own. it's up to you to kind of make it. While in the more eastern area, it's more about working together as a team, working as a group. It's just like this collectivist kind of mentality. While over here, it's individualistic, and you can see it in our culture as well. With capitalism, things like that. Of course, capitalism is everywhere now, but with the whole like starting your own business, you're gonna that's spread all over the world, and it's starting to spread all over the world now. But and you look at those other more like a lot of the eastern side, it's more just like like I said, working together, you know, which I feel like it's starting to transfer both. You know what I mean? Like we're starting to get more working together. They're starting to get more of like, hey, we could do this on our own as well, and because you need a little bit of both, right? It's kind of like the whole like self-love. Like you need to learn how to love yourself and work on your own. But you also have to have that team, right? That people behind you as a group and stuff like that. That social circle. So it's kind of having that balance between those. And I think we're kind of sharing now that the world's more connected and everything. We're kind of sharing those values with each other, and hopefully we'll find that balance in between.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see that like evolve. That's something I'd never really paid attention to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. If you want a nice book on that kind of stuff, Malcolm Gladwell's "Talking to Strangers," that one's really cool because it's talking about like um, how we are around strangers in general or just people in general. How easily we can default to truth. How it's just heuristics. Remember we were talking about heuristics. It's a lot. It's a lot about heuristics and how it really affects how we socialize with people, especially strangers, and how it causes a lot of issues.
yeah, that's interesting. Right. So, right, our codependency on cars and stuff,
Mm.
and having that change, right? So just like again, like local infrastructure and stuff, and like where we get our water from, where we get our power from, all these different things, and how like there is like that fear that if we try to use some of these materials, because some of these materials have been around for a while actually. I remember there's this story I read where there's I don't remember which car manufacturer it was, but someone made a car with cables that were made out of certain biodegradable material instead of plastic, or like rubber or whatever it's made out of. Um, and they had to do recall because these cars, ants would get inside like the engine bay and eat those wires.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that's crazy. And it's like, dude, just imagine waking up one day and no, like, did someone take your catalytic convert? Nah. Did someone take your wheels? Nah. Did someone steal your car? Nah, dude. Ants killed my car. Yeah, it's nuts. So obviously, like I do understand like the kind of where those like fears come from of like, oh, because all these projects, right, that people are trying to build like these bullet trains and like blah blah, because there's push here to create better public transit infrastructure, um, but there is like a lot of pushback from that. People think it's a waste of money. People think like, for example, protected bike lanes, are useless because nobody uses bikes.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, you look back to I forget what it's called, but there's like a term for it even to this at this point, where like people always push for more lanes in freeway traffic, and every time they widen freeways, traffic gets better, yes, for like a short period of time, and then it gets worse
Yeah.
because it's like this whole like, okay, listen, if you have like a person, right, who's like driving to work, blah blah blah, and sees, like they leave at a specific time, right? Let's say they leave at like 6:30 in the morning so that they can get to work on time. It takes them like an hour and 15. And then the thing gets widened, right? And so now they're gonna be like, you know what? I think I can actually leave at like 7:30 now, and not leave so early, to get to work at like 8 or whatever. It's only gonna take me 30 minutes. This is crazy. And yeah, it'll only take them 30 minutes, but then everyone else will have the same mentality because they're like,
Yep.
hey, normally I wait longer or I'll go earlier. Now I'm gonna go at this other time, and it's just gonna keep going. Like if you build it, they will come, right? And so it's like taking that, it's like, okay, well, you know how that happens? Like if you build an environment, right, for people to comfortably use their bikes, people will use bikes. You know, the pandemic happened, and like, where was the grand marketing to get people to buy bikes? Nowhere, absolutely
Yeah.
nowhere. No one was pushing marketing for that, and every single bike shop out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, because people wanted something to do. You know, and they had nothing, nowhere to go, because it's like, well, where are you going to take your car? Like nowhere, you know. And so people were buying bikes, and there's so many more people out there on bikes now. um you know, not to the level of like European countries, but still, you know. And you know, you look at like a country like Copenhagen, or not a country, sorry, like a city like Copenhagen, and how like they have so much, you know, in terms of like protected bike lanes, like routes specifically only for bikes, like in between, like you can only get to this business by bike type thing.
Mm.
um, and they don't have a problem with it whatsoever, you know. So at that point, people are like, oh well, you know, it's just a different culture, like blah blah blah. But it's like that in other places too. And there are even places here in the U.S. Like there was this, there's this one. Is this so? I wish I went to this high school. There's a high school here in the U.S. where everybody goes to that high school. They commute to the high school not through bike, not through car, through golf cart. Because the city itself, a long time ago, built infrastructure for golf carts. And that's how
Wow.
people get around. Like you got all these young people, because they don't need a license, right, to drive the golf cart. They're not driving on the road, because there's these designated like roads for the golf carts. And it's so cool. Like you see their parking lot, and it's just full of all these different like decorated like golf carts and stuff. Some of them look like shit, and then some of them look really good. Um, and so it's like, you know, you just seeing all these different examples of like, you know, the way people build spaces, and how that affects how the people interact with these spaces differently is so cool. You know, it's kind of like looking at Paris. There was a very like famous, or not famous, but heavily used roadway that they had, that they're now converting that into a public space. So they're getting rid of the roads and turning it into this public space with like benches, and you know, the businesses that will have outdoor seating and all this stuff, and like a little park and stuff. And you know, some people were like, oh my gosh, blah blah blah, you know, like they're taking away our roads. But the people actually living there, you know, are like, this is great, this is fantastic, you know, I have another place I can take my kids, you know, or another place I can go, you know, go for a walk, go for a nice walk, and blah blah blah, you know, ride my bike down there and all this stuff.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing that I wish we had that more in conversation, because I feel like oftentimes, at least where I'm at, you know, where I currently live, like people, at least like my neighbors and stuff, nobody really talks about like what the city is doing, you know? Like no one, I don't ever see anybody like really going to like a lot of the public open, not forums, but like, you know, open talks that the city has about like changes and stuff like that. I feel like most of the time you only ever see like old people going to those things, unless it's like, you know, a really serious topic like getting rid of a college, or something like that, you know. Like out of nowhere where I live, they took out a bridge. Like I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know it was gone, you know.
Which
And then I
bridge?
go, there's like a bridge heading up over, north of where I live, that goes over the train tracks, and they just completely demolished it.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's by like a smokestack. I don't know. It's like some old thing. I later found out that it was because like they were concerns about the structural integrity of the bridge and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not very, even myself, I'm not very involved with like what's going on in the city and stuff. I don't find out until it already happens, and I'm like, oh damn, you know. And it's not like I can't go to these things, you know, or attend, or like be informed,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It's almost like I just choose not to be, but it's like not something that even crosses my mind to begin with. Um, but it's another thing of like, so all these new like materials and stuff that are coming out and getting you know, being tested and developed and all this stuff. in I'm really hoping that you can kind of merge this push for these spaces that people are trying to focus on, and like just like public transportation and blah blah blah, and like merge the two, because I think that would be really beneficial. But there's obviously like the concern of like, okay, but like, are these things going to last?
Yeah.
Is this gonna crumble just because it's made out of mushrooms, or say it as some other thing? And I mean that part's kind of like, sucks. But I feel like it's also like kind of how it's very noticeable that certain countries do better in terms of like certain sports. Um, and it's usually because they have more like funding, or like the country cares more about that sport. Like nobody else cares about American football, but why does our soccer team not do super great, but then other soccer teams from other countries do really, really well? And it's a continuous thing. Or I look at like esports, and how like Korea and like Taiwan and stuff are always like, even China are always top charts. And it's like we care about video games, don't we? But we don't have like the same, I'd almost say like the same like culture, but also the same like structure of like how things work, right? Like they've had college scholarships for games for forever, longer than we've had. We just got them, just some of them, some colleges anyway. But they've had those programs for forever, and like same with like any other sport that like certain countries have. Like why are certain, maybe even certain states or certain cities have better football teams, or more football teams, right? Or more of that. It's because they have that. They have the fields, they have the football fields, they have the soccer fields, they have like blah blah blah, and access to that. Making something accessible. Is like a great way for that stuff to get where it needs to be. And I feel like that's something that these, like maybe even these like materials and like these like kind of talks, I'm hoping will happen eventually, like really need. It's accessibility. It's like if anybody can pick it up and like get into it and do it, like it'll blow up from there. Like what is it, Linux, right? How like open source the hell that is, right? And how like that's the reason why Android exists. That's the reason why Raspberry Pis exist. And then Raspberry Pis, are the reason why so many other really awesome like technology and stuff that people are making exists. And it's just like a cascading effect because something is like so accessible. And yeah, that's just really cool. I hope I can find a way like in the future to like be more involved in these types of things, because right now I feel like I'm very much at like the very beginning of like learning about these things. Like all I've done so far is just like read some stuff here and there and kind of just follow companies and see what they're doing. When they put out like videos about like how this is made and blah blah blah. I like watching those and learning about that stuff, following certain people.
Right now,
Yeah. Yeah, just learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just crazy, dude. It's crazy. And I feel like I'm at that point where like, if anyone will let me like talk to them about this stuff, I will, like it's like a hyper fixation or something. Oh man.
A funny thing too is when I saw the video, it kind of reminded me of a lot of things from like science fiction as well, but specifically in SCP. I'm a big fan of SCP. There's a SCP they call the biological motherboard, and it's literally like a motherboard made out of bioorganic stuff, and it's like able to grow and build its own thing, but it's able to also code and everything. It's just really weird, like, and I wonder if like we'll get to that stage eventually.
That would be crazy to think about. Like, I imagine
maybe that's what humans are. I mean, eventually, animals become. They're these self-programming things.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, like we have a hard time getting like certain prosthetics, or like certain, sorry, not certain prosthetics, but like certain things that have to go like inside you, right, for your body to like not reject it. And then at the same time, even like a organic like donor kidney, your body could still reject it, right?
Yeah.
Like even if it's healthy and blah blah blah. And so I'm wondering if like maybe that future would make it easier to do those things, because if we can find like a way to program organics to that scale, you know, or to that like efficiency, if we could get it to like match up like exactly with whatever it is we need at the time, whether it's like a lung transplant or something like that. Because I mean, we can grow like meat, and we can grow like a human ear on like a mouse or a rat. I forget what it was, that one.
You know, I got another book recommendation if you want to check out stuff like that too. Decoding the World by Poe Bronson and Arvind Gupta. They talk about a lot of that cool stuff that's going on right now. Like, they even have a whole chapter dedicated to like printing meat and like how that started and everything. Like, it reminds me of that, you know, episode of Abstract, where like how they're just like, hey, like they just looked at something and was just like, how does that work? Can we make that? You know what I mean? Like, and they pretty much do that. Like, they just, in the book they talk about all these little businesses that they start, and it pretty much starts like that. Like, oh hey, people are complaining that, you know, we're eating a bunch of meat and stuff like that. I was like, well, can we just print it? Does that work? Can we do that? I was like, all right, let's go try and do that. And sometimes some of the things won't work. Like, one of the problems was rhinos were being hunted too much, and for their horns, and they were saying like, oh well, then what if we print a bunch of rhino horns from rhino DNA, whatever, you know, the chitin, and put them on the market, see what happens. And they thought it would work, but it ended up making it worse. But
no.
yeah, so it's just like that kind of thing, you know. You never know until you try it, but
because the increased supply increased the demand.
Yep. So like, it's just I just find it interesting, you know, asking those questions. Like Neri was asking those questions, you know. She mentions it, you know, the whole thing with the bees as well. It's just like, hey, can we do that?
Yeah, like asking a question.
I mean, that's
right?
what science is, right? Just...
Yeah, it is. We're definitely curious folk.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's built into our DNA, man. That's what babies do as well. They're always curious.
A frog with a sword. I don't know why it took me this long to see that.
Oh yeah, he's a knight that got cursed by a mage.
Whoa.
You know, the whole classic prince got to be kissed by a princess. Except that
that is the cure?
No, they never mentioned it, but...
I like that he hops around too, that's cool.
Oh boy.
But yeah, that Abstract series has so many things in it that's really like eye-opening. I mean, I think that generally they're all really, really good. I think some of them just caught my eye more than others, which is really cool. But no, water here. I just realized I poured myself this big glass of water, and I haven't taken a single sip. I'm like, why is my throat so dry?
You're passionate about the conversation. I totally feel that. Sometimes I'll do that. I'm just going and going, and I'm just like, I need water. I've been talking way too much.
Yeah. Oh, kind of to circle it back a little bit. There was actually no. First, there's the other thing. Speaking on the whole like cyberpunk, solarpunk thing, there's this. I saw this ad by like a game published by Devolver Digital, called Terra Nil, and it's like a little pixel game. But the whole like point of the game, I think there's like a free demo on Steam you can get. But it's called Terra Nil, Nil, and the whole objective of the game is to restore like a certain amount of land to like its separate biological biome, or no, environmental biome, sorry, biological. It's separate biomes, so you'd have like,
you know I think I have it.
You do? Oh yeah, it's cool.
It sounds very familiar.
But it was cool because it did two things, I think, that like people like two things that were really cool that were different about the whole, you know, subject. One, the game does have like a mechanic where you have to burn a portion of what you just created, like, or what you just restored, in order to restore it to a specific biome, you know. And people I saw like in comments on some other, I think it was like a, yeah, it was like a YouTube video. The YouTube video, people are like, whoa, are you telling me someone actually is talking about like the importance of like burn, you know, and like blah blah blah, and then like looking into it, it's like, oh yeah, it's like a actual, like, there is benefits to, you know, like forest fires basically.
Yeah.
And like what it can do to the environment and stuff like that, and the benefits it does have. And then the other thing too was at the end of the whole thing, the game has you basically take everything you built, like all these different machineries and like different like little devices, take them all out of it and leave basically everything as if you had never been there. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Okay, now I was like, yeah, I've heard this game before, and yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, and I'd never seen a game like that. Not that it's like revolutionary or anything, but it was cool to see something like that. Yeah. Because like I have it on my wish list. Most of the other, like, I feel like games where it's like you're building a base and stuff, it's all about like what you actually have, you know, instead of like what you leave behind type thing. So that was really cool.
Gather, but you're never just like, hey, you need to get, you know, you need to let it go.
Yeah. It's the greed. Capitalism.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say before. Oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would even argue that kind of mentality leaks into the reason why a lot of us are even afraid to die, right? And I know this is gonna get a little, but I would say that we're afraid to die because we don't want to let it go. We don't want to let our life go. We don't want to let everything, you know, when somebody said, hey, I'm going to take everything, your family, your friends, your memories, your sight, your hearing, all of that. Like, you'd be like, no, I need that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. And that is, like, you know, as humans, we are afraid to let things go. That's why we create heaven. That's why we create religions. Like, there has to be something more. There has to be something
reincarnated.
Yeah. There has to be more of me. Like, you know, it's like, no, you gotta let it go. Yeah. You gotta go back. You gotta get rid of your footprint. Nature needs to go back. So.
See, I'd always thought of it about like it was just more of like a, like the whole like self-preservation thing was just like us not wanting to feel like pain, even like emotional pain, and that's what it was all about. I never thought about it as being like, you know, more like we wanted more of us, that we didn't want to like lose ourselves basically, and like everything we had, whether it was like physical or emotional, you know, like our memories and stuff. That's nuts.
Oh my god, did they really just fourth wall that shit? They played heroic music, he's like, no, stop that music! And then it plays this music, he's like, alright, that's better. Because that's our ship, he's taking our ship to travel through time.
Wow. Got jacked. Wait, have you played this before?
No.
What?
Wait,
did they...
What's up?
Did they just get like pushed back because of the freaking thruster? Like, that's cool.
This is a really good game for like when it came out. I think I'm trying to remember what year exactly it came out in, but I know it was like probably around maybe the 80s. Maybe the 90s. What is the Super Nintendo? I'm terrible at the chronology of everything.
This was cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, circling back to that Eureka 7 thing. I was watching somebody like break it down or whatever. Because I just happened to see this, like, I don't know, like a couple years ago or something. It was like a video of like, oh, breaking down Eureka 7. And I was like, wow, I haven't watched that in so long. And that was like one of my favorites. I love the music, I love the characters, the story, like everything was like perfect about it. And like I'd recently like started like kind of rewatching some stuff and like realizing that some of the stuff I used to really love was really cringy, and I'd be like, oh no. Hey. And so I was like, I'm gonna watch a breakdown because like that might jog my memory and like see if there was anything really bad about it or cringy or awkward or whatever. Um, and this guy was kind of going through all the like different themes and like how there's all these references. How like one character looks like what's his name? Guevara.
Che Guevara.
Yeah. And I was like, holy crap! I never realized that. Like even though I learned about it in like school, I've never made that connection. And like how there's all these references to like these old punk bands, from at the time, and all this stuff and all these different references. And at some point in the video, the guy starts talking about what the original creator, what his like intention was with the story. And he had been talking about how you have this divide of like these young people and these older people, and like you have these older people that don't want to take any kind of or suffer any kind of accountability for how they are treating the world, right?
Yeah.
Because in that story, they're basically causing the environment to like self-destruct almost, because of everything that they're doing. And then you have these young people that are going to inherit these problems, right? That the older generation has basically just left behind for them. And how at the time, what's it called? You had this movement where young people, like in our world, not in this fiction world, you had this divide of like these young people kind of like, again, inheriting the older generation's problems and like being frustrated and angry about it all, and wanting to be, better, and wanting to change things and all this stuff, and kind of being held back again by that older generation and stuff. And that happens in the story. Like you see that those same struggles happen, albeit through Japanese animation. But it's there, and like a lot of the music that is there also like has roots to what type of music a certain generation was listening to at the time, like young people and again that older generation. And one of the things that the guy mentions that the original creator had said in an interview was that he would hope that even if the young generation wouldn't get like all these references, then in around 10 years time or something like that they would go back and that they would figure it out, and that they would see like what he intended, like even if we hadn't understood it then, that we would understand it now. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, 27 minus 10. And I was like, wait, when was this anime made? And I was like, holy shit, yeah, it's been like 10 years since I watched this. And I was like, and I'm sitting here doing exactly what he said he had hoped for. And that story had a lot of themes in terms of like protecting the environment and like everything our footprint and the things we've left behind and all the damage we've done. Oh, did you fuck up? Did you mess something up?
I bought a weapon that I had already.
Oh no!
I just wasted so much money. Alright, let me reset this game really quick.
Yeah. Let's go back in time. That never happened. But yeah, it's just stuff like that was nuts, and that it was kind of one of the I'd say the catalyst that got me to thinking a little bit more about everything, because I'm like, like the things I feel like that sometimes inspire us are when someone goes to like, you could even almost say like great lengths to get a point across, or to get a message across, that someone would go, and take that amount of time and energy and everything to make something or to get a message out that they felt was so important for us to listen, and it kind of reminds me of like how in that show, this group, they're these eco-terrorists, is how like the government kind of like branded them, were like military, some of them, and they had seen like what the government had done, behind the scenes kind of thing, and then that's why they like we're going to these like military bases and like bombing them and stuff. You know, they weren't necessarily trying to kill people, but they were trying to, get back at the government for what they had done, um, and what they kept doing. And even that in and of itself, we have terrorism, here now. It's something that we have lived, in this time where that is going on. And it's probably been going on many other times, and it's felt that way for other people. And it kind of made me think anyway, like, not necessarily to like sympathize or empathize necessarily with those groups, but it was like more of like what would cause someone to like wake up one day and be like, I'm gonna go against the government, or I'm gonna get a bunch of people together and we're gonna go against this nation, or against what these people are doing to blah blah blah.
You really asking that?
No, I'm not. Just I was saying, like, it made me think about it.
Oh, okay.
And it's just I feel sometimes like like I remember talking to you how like I'm very vengeful, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to like someone hurting my friends, and I don't necessarily feel that way about the environment. But I do, have this feeling of frustration of seeing all these things that I would consider negative, right? That, kind of go against how I feel, that things should be.
Yeah.
And like I see, like, at least in the show, like I kind of understand where they were coming from, and I see that in like other shows too. Like if you've ever watched like Gundam 00, or like any of the like Gundam Unicorn and those things, there's like there's usually like some group that's going against everything and everyone, almost, it feels like, but for like the greater good or something. They're doing something that'll change the world. And I wonder if that's how these groups feel, if that's what they genuinely like believe, and that's what like kind of drives them, because they feel like they're in this sort of like, maybe it's a moral right, or something like that. And maybe people should feel that way about the environment. Maybe people should feel that way about public transportation. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, it's nuts how like different things that we've like consumed, or whether it's like media, or like we read some book that had like someone felt really strongly about something, and maybe you didn't get it then, but maybe you get it now, and you're like, oh wow, I never even realized that they were really trying to push this idea or something. But I wonder, I do really wonder now, like what our future will actually look like, because like now I don't really believe it'll look like a cyberpunk type future. I don't think that is our future. But I don't necessarily feel like the whole solar punk thing is where we'll end up. I feel like it's very much a fantasy, but a good one for some parts anyway.
Oh.
It's like the afterlife. Oh.
I'm just realizing that this is where everybody came from.
From the future?
These are all people we met, and they're all people that got time travel, I had a feeling that was Janice. That little kid was this guy right here. And he was like a big villain from the very beginning of the game. We ended up figuring out how he became that. Time travel. I like time travel, but at the same time, I also find it very silly. Because I don't think that's how it works. Like, of course I don't know how it works, but I just have an inkling that's just not how it works. Because again, I think time travel is another form of our inability to accept letting go of things. We think we can go back and change things or go to the future and see more of who we are and everything. And it's like, no, that's not how the universe works. Like, the universe just breaks things down and rebuilds things. Like, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't really keep record of things. It's just kind of just, it's like a mixture of chaos and order. And it's like, I remember writing this down. Let me see if I can find it really quick. I want to pull it up really quick, sorry. Because there's a book, I told you the book I'm writing, and I wrote this line the other day for the book. It's making me...
Like, looking at one of your 8 monitors?
Yeah.
It does make you look like you're like a hacker or something. Hacker man.
Oh wait, I already had it open. Whoops. Loading book. Back to library. Book.
That also makes me wonder, like, what were our like future education look like? You know, are there gonna be some things that just become standardized, like like everyone has to learn some level of programming or something like that?
Yeah,
Like, what would that?
You know what they call that? Ellipsism, where
Whoa,
you hope you think about what you think the future is gonna look like, but you know you're probably never gonna see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. So I wrote this in because I organized these into chapters or sections, I guess, of the book, and this is the section on the soul, and this is like the very end of the book. So spoilers. I was kidding. This passage is called Vibration, and this is what I wrote. My child, do you not feel the vibration of the universe? It calls to every atom to both disorganize and organize, cycling between chaos and order. So too can all men someday reach a synchronicity once we realize we stand on the same ground. From stars to atoms, all life follows this pattern of collective behavior as one might stray for some time. In the end, all matter conforms together, returning once again to the universe. I remind you again that you do not own this body. This is merely a loan by life itself, for a fractional moment to do the best you can with the time given, whatever the best may be. A moment of desynchronization to synchronize with those who have also been given the chance to desynchronize. A continuous loop of organized chaos and disorganized order. Nothing cannot exist without something have been there to perceive it, and something cannot exist without nothing first existing to be filled. This nature is like that of the Ouroboros, a snake forever eating itself, a loop that never ends, and will most likely not ever be understood, which of course is fantastic, for what is a human without mystery, without curiosity? Sad, unfulfilled, aimless, and eventually quite delusional. Yeah, that was the passage I wrote for that.
Wow. Well written.
Oh, thank you.
It's very, I don't know the word for it, but I want to say eloquent.
Oh.
Is that a good word?
Yeah,
I don't even know what
it
it
just
means. So I'm trying to use it.
eloquent just means like you speak like clearly and like you
Yeah.
have a good, your words are, yeah, it's just like clear, you're well spoken.
Yeah.
Well-spoken. I guess I'll walk away from this too.
That's a good word.
But yeah, it just reminded me of that. Like, it goes back to like what I was saying. Like, you see it everywhere in yoga. You see it in Christianity, sort of, kind of. I mean, you see it in a lot of religions, and then you see it a lot in a lot of belief systems, where it's just like this, like, everything is together but separate. This chaos, like this organization, but then everything's not really organized. It's its own thing. It's just like this, like, never-ending cycle. It's just this, and the circle of life. You have all these like imagery and everything too that all like kind of points in that direction. It's like, yeah, that doesn't end. So even like when you die, like your atoms go somewhere else. They're not destroyed technically. You're just
Mm-hmm.
unbuilt and rebuilt into something else. I wasn't even reading what they said. Damn.
Sorry, I'm
Oh.
still like lulling in like what you said
Oh.
or you wrote.
Yeah. Look forward to the release of this book, everybody, next year. Hopefully I'll have it done by then.
Mark your calendars.
Yeah. It's called the name of the book is To My Future Child. And originally, the idea was spurred from like this is a book I wanted to write to my actual child, but the more I like work on it, the way I see it is like it's kind of all children, like all children of the future, like, and in a sense, even us, because we were children of the future, you know, in a sense. That's like for everyone to kind of just look at and just, I mean, of course, it's like a book on philosophy. It's my own philosophy, just what I think, a lot of my thoughts from a lot of information I've gathered and, you know, what do they say? Synthesize the information I've synthesized from everything I've gathered, and I'm just like, okay, this is how I feel about it. But anyways, I'm gonna name this guy after what his real name is, because I'm a good person. No, I'm just kidding.
Someone new joined your party?
Yeah, I got the edgy vampire boy.
37.
Whoa, I am behind on level. Okay, we need to start farming, y'all.
It's tanky.
Okay, what can I do with this? I don't really. I have to use them. Ooh. Alright, we'll get rid of Kiro. I don't really want to get rid of Kiro, but we'll get rid of Kiro.
How dare you?
Lady! Oh shit, he
Whoa!
floats. Whee!
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, I guess all I want to say with that too is enjoy your life, guys. And let others enjoy their lives as well. And remind them that they need to let others enjoy their other people's lives as well. And continue that trend. Pay it forward in a sense.
I'm gonna start taking pre-orders. $50 a pop.
Shit, I don't want to charge that much for my book.
I don't even know that there is a $50 book. I feel like at that point it might as well be like some educational like college book or something.
Yeah, it'd be like a giant textbook.
$500.
Oh my god. That's. Oh, wait. Why does he have to do the cape thing? Where did that come from? I wonder.
What, capes?
The whole like no, getting the cape and going like this and then saying something.
Ah.
It's like.
What if it was like?
I don't want to sing this to your friend. What's that?
Like maybe it was like during some performance or something. Just an actor was like, you know, maybe they had to do that because something happened to their lip or something, or they thought they looked funny, and they're like, oh, but I can do this and be mysterious or something. But it was really just to hide like their face or something.
Yeah, had something in their teeth. They're just like, oh.
Yeah.
It's
like sometimes stuff comes out of accidents, right?
Yeah. Serendipity, my friend. Dippin' Dots.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, serendipity means like a fortunate accident. That's why they call it Dippin' Dots, the ice cream, because it was an accident that he made it.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I forgot what he was trying to make, but it ended up making something.
Ice cream?
I made these dots. Yo, let's look it up actually. Let's see.
Dang, all this time travel.
I don't get it.
Throwing me off. Although I gotta admit, I don't even know the story.
Oh, I see. An accident. So, 10 people were injured after an explosion at a Kentucky facility that produces ingredients for Dippin' Dots. Okay, never mind. This is nothing connected to it. But I looked that up and it just that popped up. So I thought that was very interesting. Let's see if okay, they said 10 foods are discovered by accident. Dippin' Dots were invented in 1988 by microbiologist Kurt Jones, who was originally trying to figure out a way to feed cows more efficiently. One of Jones' experiments involved freezing cow feed at 350 degrees at below zero, turning the cow food into little pellets. Taking that same concept, Jones froze ice cream with little liquid nitrogen, which turned them into the little Dippin' Dot beads we've come familiar with.
That is wild.
Oh wow, beer? It's hard to pinpoint the exact origins of beer, but it's believed that hunter-gatherer tribes stumbled upon its Oh yeah, but that makes sense actually. Fermentation would be something we discover accidentally. We just leave something out, we're just like, shit. Oh, you know what? This actually tastes bad. I mean, it doesn't taste that bad.
Yeah. Like cured meat, or cheese.
Yeah.
Or yogurt.
Waffle cones. When an ice cream vendor next to him ran out of plates, Hamwi was a homie and rolled up his waffles in a cone shape. Once the waffle crisp cooled, they put the ice cream inside and it actually worked. That is very... The same thing with Doritos, right? That was made in Disneyland. Some guy was just like, oh, look at it, just put some cheese on there.
What?
Yeah, that was made in Disneyland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Surprised they don't have the rights.
Oh, because they left after and started their own company. Apparently, chocolate chip cookies are by accident, nachos are by accident, cornflake. Oh yeah, cornflakes. He was yeah. Anyways.
Good tangent.
Yeah, sorry guys. Little fun tangent there.
All right, so what's going on right now in this story?
So,
what are you doing?
we need to... So we can choose like different times to go to. I'm gonna go back to the present time. So we're from the year 1000 AD, right?
Woo.
And eventually we went back in time and stopped like a queen who's related to, like, this is the great-great-grandmother of one of the characters in our party, which is Emily right there, because she's the princess right now in the current present time. So we went back in time, stopped that, and then we found out, you know, like, there's some bullshit going on with portals, and then we found out the portals are made by this creature named Lavos, and he's like a parasite, he's like a world eater. Like, he lands on a planet, he consumes it, sucks it dry, and then gets, you know, the planet blows up and launches him onto, you know, into space to find another planet. And so, like, his, like, abnormal, like, nature is, like, causing time to kind of, like, mess up around there. And that's what causing us to do this little adventure. And so now, we've kind of messed with the whole Lavos thing. What the fuck is that? Okay, that wasn't there before.
Is that the creature?
No.
Oh.
But we've kind of like messed with the whole Lavos thing, and so now Lavos is affecting all time periods, and now we gotta stop all that, like closing the portals and stuff like that, and then finally fighting them. I think I've been here before. But now we unlock flight. We can fly around now.
And in order to travel through time, you use your Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
Ah, there it is. There. He said it. He said it.
What's cool though is that how like you do get to like travel between the different timelines, and you kind of see some of the like connections and things like that. Like, oh, this was here, this caused this, and this, you know, a lot of Doctor Who shit, you know.
God,
And it has really good music too, but you can't hear any of it, so sorry.
Aw. Boo. Copyright strike.
Well, he can fly though. Just gotta talk to this guy. Oh, okay. We just gotta fight him. He's just gonna just one-shot us all. Just watch. Oh, never mind. He doesn't do shit. Oh wow, I do all the magics.
This guy ain't shit.
This guy ain't shit.
Hey, kick his ass, Tom. Kick his ass.
Did I do damage to him? I wasn't paying attention. Kinda missed my boy, my froggy boy.
Is he like a specialist or something?
Wow, that did nothing. Okay. Oh, that... How about physical damage? How does that? What does that do? 126.
Ooh.
Wow, we missed. Wow, we missed. Wow, we missed. What are we supposed to do? Ice? here? No, they didn't do anything. It's too resilient. Okay. I guess we just can't fight it. Just get the fuck out
It just
of here.
lets you leave?
It's just like, yeah, you can't do anything. Get out of here.
Ah, I guess it's kind of nice. And just outright dying.
It's a radio. But yeah,
Fabrication.
biofabrication. I was like trying to remember the word. I was like, biofabrication is very interesting. I think what we should do right now is just start with, because you know how you're mentioning that, you know, the problem with is it gonna last, things like that, whatever. I think we should just focus on the things that don't last. You know, the things that we throw away quite often. And this actually works with the economy as well, because I've seen a lot of videos where they talk about how a lot of things. I mean, you know, what is it? Planned obsolescence, right? Like that's a huge thing, and people complain about it. Well, maybe it won't be such a problem if we started using, you know, making those things out of things that are biodegradable. So it's like, you know, we're still giving people those jobs because people are still able to build stuff. Because if we built things that lasted forever, you know, eventually we wouldn't have to do anything. Most of us would sit on our ass or just go do creative stuff and, you know, push the future more. Because, you know, we're humans, we're going to keep doing more stuff. But for those people who, you know, only learned their whole life one job, whatever, and now they're like, what do I do now? Those people can keep working jobs and they're building this stuff that is biodegradable. And so, like I said, people continue their keep their jobs, products keep going out there, and the environment doesn't get harmed. You don't have all these cell phones freaking just sitting around, you know. We're constantly getting new cell phones because, you know, they want them to go to shit, you know, immediately.
God, I feel like those should be the ones that should last longer, not shorter.
Right? It's just, the same thing with
3
light
years.
bulbs. They're doing that with light bulbs too. They actually talked about how, like, during the 1920s, all the light bulb companies got together all around the world and was just like, hey, you know, if we make our, because originally light bulbs were supposed to last for like hundreds of years, and they all got together and was like, hey, we're kind of losing money because people don't need to buy light bulbs after they buy them once. Like, let's make them shittier so that people need to buy more light bulbs. And they were all like, okay, we'll do that. And some of them eventually were just like, nah, I'd rather sell some really good light bulbs so I get more business. You know, they were like backstabbing each other and everything. But eventually, like, most of the companies were just selling shittier light bulbs. And even nowadays, we sort of still have shittier light bulbs, sort of. You know, now that we have the LED light bulbs, which last way longer, they're a lot more powerful, a lot more brighter. But it's just crazy how that goes down. Like, people are just like, how can we just, like, you know, make life worse just so that I get more money? Like, it's like, what? That's what I think about biofabrication, is that we should start with things that we constantly throw away a lot. You know, packaging, very important. Maybe even toothbrushes. You know, I feel like that's something I feel like often a lot of us are switching out a lot.
It was like every 3 weeks or something like that? I forget how long a toothbrush is supposed to last. Or not last, because it's not like it breaks after 3 weeks. I remember once I had a toothbrush for like at least like a year, you know? And it's definitely not, you know, the same as it was. God, it wasn't like split in half or something. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think right now, like, for the most part, what I've seen is it's been in either something that they're either targeting something that's very, like, generally very harmful already to the environment, like concrete and like making that and all that stuff, or something that, like you said, doesn't or is not intended to last very long, like packaging, or even, I don't know so much about shoes, but I feel like for some things, like I think they did the same company that did the Adidas shoe, they did another collaboration with some other big fashion company, where they made like a jumpsuit that used that material. It wasn't made completely out of the material, but it used it, the fake leather, and I guess that makes sense, not because like clothes shouldn't last, but because of fast fashion, right?
Yeah.
like all the H&Ms, the Forever 21s, like, and even other like regular stores where like they're constantly like, you know, like what you're wearing now isn't gonna be in style like 2 weeks from now, you know, and then that just kind of keeps going. I mean, I don't necessarily feel affected by that because I'm not buying clothes all the time. But you know, I do know other people that like love shopping for new clothes, and like there's always something new, and there's always, you know, freaking fashion week rolls around, and like everything like in your closet is now out of style. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That is another thing too, form over function, right? Like, shoes is one of those things where it's like they're supposed to protect their feet, yet people are even afraid of even getting them dirty. Like, what?
But then they don't look nice. I mean, there's something to be said about like dirtying something, because I think like I forget if I know it does it must do some harm to like not wash your car, you know, like as far as like damage to like the paint, you know, and then you're like, well, it's just paint. Yeah, but what's underneath that paint? The metal. And if the metal gets messed up and gets like moisture and all this stuff, it's gonna rust, you know, or like the sun's gonna do damage to this and that, and then like, you know, it's gonna mess up your protective layer that like all the cars come with, you know.
Oh shit. She's over here shaking her head. Oh damn! You disowned her. Was not expecting that. Oh, why do you have a gleam in his
Glinting, yeah. This is what he wanted. He wants the throne for himself. I'm kidding. I have no idea.
I don't know. But alright, I got disowned from the royalty.
Hope that didn't come with any perks.
Oh yeah, we gotta check out that big old ship, right? The thing flying in the sky.
Ah, looks scary.
Wherever it was, I don't remember where it was. You remember where it was?
Like south and then to the left?
I don't see it.
How big is this freaking map? Is there like a certain number of land masses or something?
What's that? Alright. It was over here. We left of this, right? Never mind. Maybe it was more over here. There it is.
Oh!
What's it? Oh, this is over Melchior's place. That's right.
What is it? Black Omen. That doesn't sound good. Ooh, another glinting.
Return to the what, mate?
Is that really what it's called?
That's what I named it.
Oh, you get to name it.
That's because it's called the Wings of Time. So I put W-O-T.
What,
so
mate?
it's the Wings of Time, mate. What? Oh, I didn't even heal. Come on, I wasn't ready. Lightning bolt.
Cue the freaking Kingdom Hearts battle music. It's over.
Thunder! Oh jeez, I did a lot of damage. Right. Everything's dead.
Somehow you survived. I love that in every one of these like JRPGs, you better heal.
Oh.
Oh no. There's always like you're finding gold or whatever in like random places.
Yeah.
Like, why did this dog have gold on him?
This queen reminds me of the evil lady in Power Rangers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
the crown piece.
Yeah.
That's because it is her. Oh, this looks bad.
Oh, I was not ready for a boss fight. Oh no. Fire. And one of my characters are already dead. Oh no, two of them are dead. And he's in the middle of doing a spell.
No, at least you look very effective.
I feel like once I revive them, they're just gonna get murked, though. What do I do? What do I do? What I do is wait for him to attack. Okay, we're gonna use a barrier sphere. Oh. Don't do that. It's rude. Oh. Maybe I wasn't ready for that. Maybe we should go level up.
New game start over.
I gotta level everybody up. Turn to the mate with that. Hey, the ship's over there. Where are you guys jumping? Let's go to the pass. Let's go to prehistory. You know, I never thought about it. Every time I heard the word prehistoric, I never thought that it meant before history.
Oh shit. You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, you hear it.
Yeah.
Prehistoric, but it's just like, ah, prehistoric. It's just a word. It's like, no, it's prehistoric. Before.
History. It's so simple. I would have never thought of it that way.
Well, and one of the things that's been helping me like look at words more like that is ever since I started learning about morphology, etymology, chunking, and all that. I read through a book. It was like a college course book for just vocabulary, like how to understand vocabulary. And that thing freaking blew my mind. That's what got me into reading. That's what got me into so many things. I'm just like, language makes sense now. Like before I was just like, yeah, people are teaching me words and I'll try my best to remember them. But after that like book, I was just like, it's a whole new world. Like even today, like a lady was just like, do you guys have any topiary rosemary bushes? And I'm like, at first I was like, what the fuck is a topiary? And then like I thought about it, and I was like, top means place, location, and then airy is like an apiary, right? Like with a bee thing. So it's like a living thing. So it was like a living place. Like so like even though I knew like what the word was kind of meaning, I was like, the fuck is that? And then once she told me, I was like, oh, okay, topiary. That's like it's called a living place because it's like what's the word? It's kind of like, you know, when people cut bushes and they make them into those like shapes and stuff like that, and make them look ornamental. And
yeah.
It's that. That's what a topiary is. So it's like it's a living ornament in a sense. Like yeah. So it's weird. So apparently, airy also comes from things like terrarium, vivarium, which is the original word, which means like living, like location. Like it's weird. Like it's a place where life does its work. That's like supposed to be like the original definition. And then that turns into aquarium. Aquarium turns into terrarium. And then you have airy, which comes from all that. And then topiary. So it's like living place where life does its work. And it's just like, okay. I mean, that's the beauty of language though, right? Like you can just take these little things and then eventually it becomes like this short word, but it's like I shove all this meaning in there though. Like I don't know, it's just interesting.
That's I honestly wouldn't have thought that hard. I would have just Googled it. I would have been so confused. I'm like, all right, lady, I got no idea what you're talking about. I can't help you.
Talking about? Oh, there we go. Perfect. All four of them. Let's go. Oh, I'm not healed. Burn them. You do no damage.
Get them all.
Oh wow, they have no health yet. I don't know if this can give me that much XP. My lord.
Another thing that I kind of just thought about right now. So did you watch more than like that episode?
No, I only got to watch that one episode. I did see some ones I wanted to watch though. just didn't.
There's a graphic design one, and I think that's literally the first episode. But the guy in that episode has like a studio, right?
Uh-huh.
And when I was just strictly a graphic designer, I was like, oh man, I would kill for a studio. That'd be nuts. You imagine like a specific place where like all it is just like stuff for you to use to like work, and like make things and blah blah blah. Where you got your paints, you got your charcoals, you got your blah blah blah, your little drawing like stand table thing or whatever, and all this stuff. And I was like, man, that'd be so cool. And like he did have like a bunch of stuff, but I think the thing that you do have like a big map.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I was
that.
like, I'd have been lost to say.
Morgan.
The thing that what really gravitated me towards this thing is how simple his like workspace was, how clean and like blah blah blah. And like I'm looking at my workspace right now, and it's like post-its on the walls. There's like all this stuff. I've got like freaking my little amiibos up here, like. And I'm wondering if like clearing all this stuff, would help with like my like not like creative process, but I guess kind of, help with that and like clear it out, because it's just full of clutter. There's just like stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Even my monitor is like stood up on top of like 3 books. You know.
It's entropy, dude.
Gosh. Yeah, I remember when I first watched like the whole like first season, and then the second season came out. I was like really heavily like inspired by it, and it made me want to do things. It made me want to make things, and, like like find what I really wanted to do, kind of thing.
I just remembered something from the Neri episode. There was some good freaking ass quotes in that episode. Like when she was talking about like my dad told me this, I was just like, God damn, some nuggets of wisdom. I need to write this down. When she said like, you're being creative when you feel uncomfortable and alone, like while you're doing something, like you're going towards something different, And I was just like, oh shit. I remember like times where I did projects and like a lot of people were just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, okay, I guess, like, do your thing, whatever. And like, it's just that feeling. And I was just like, no, this is right. I have to do this. Like, I don't care if everybody else thinks it's weird and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I feel too, like with the writing the books and stuff like that. Like everyone's kind of like, okay, cool, you're writing a book, like. And then when I tell them about the book, like show them some of the stuff, like even your reaction was just like, oh, that's eloquent, whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw your compliment. Just like takes a lot, man. Okay. Didn't need it. No, but just like I have like that reaction, and then sometimes it's just like, I'm sure that's what you want to do, or it's just like a lot of people know me as a big talker, so it's just like, here he goes again, talking about a new thing he wants to do. I hardly doubt he's gonna finish it. And yeah, they're kind of right, I do struggle with that kind of stuff. So it's just not letting that get to me though, not quitting because all these people are saying these things. But I mean, I guess it's cheesy, and it goes to the whole overused cliche like, or maxim of be yourself, don't listen to what other people tell you.
Hey, maybe it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, most cliches are, most aphorisms and all that junk. Where the hell am I going, man? What is the forest in here? How do I get that chest, though?
Does he actually shake his head when you're, like, staring at it? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, when you walk into a wall and you're trying to move forward, like, the characters just go like, no. What do you want to do?
Ah! That's so frustrating. It looks like they're like, oh, this is the way. This is the way.
This is the way. That's not the way. All the enemies. At least I can get some XP.
No.
This place is full of monsters. You don't suppose they got the people in that village, do you? Either way, we basically all. What I think is that time is all fucked up and they're crossing over. That's why there's a weird forest inside the middle of a jungle. Prehistoric jungle.
A little dance.
Oh, I should use fire. Shit.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like, so I have a really hard time like getting anything done in my house, right? But I remember like for a while I was going to like a Starbucks, or I was going to like my local like a local tea shop and stuff, and like just kind of sitting there and like trying to work on stuff, and I would get more done than I would get done in here, but like not as much as I would like, I guess, because like sometimes I kind of just sit there and stare at the screen or whatever. And I'm wondering if that, like, you know, if maybe it's really like my environment is just so full of like, it feels like so full of clutter and distraction that like
too much stimulation.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I was talking to Hitori, like the reason why, you know, my bad, I was late. As we were talking about, because he's trying to figure out what he wants to do, like future-wise, right? Because he's kind of thought about it before, but you know, he was having a really hard time, trying to figure it out. But it was like, it's different from when you're trying to solve a problem, and you understand the problem and you're trying to like work out a solution. But for him, it was to a point where like he couldn't even begin to understand how he'd begin to try to understand how to solve it, or like try to solve it to begin with. Like he couldn't see that like point A to point B, you know, he just saw point B. And it was really hard for him to try to figure that out. I was trying to help him, you know, like trying to go, well, you know, like what kinds of things are you passionate about? You know, what do you spend your time doing? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, what's the things you wish you spent more time on, but you don't?
I feel like that's one of those things where you need to know the difference between, what was the word? Aspirations and goals. Because I think that's what causes a lot of issues, is that people are like, well, I want to travel the world someday. And it's like, okay, that's kind of an aspiration. Like, you know, like you aspire to travel the world. You don't really have a specific target though. You know what I mean? While the goal would be like, hey, I actually want to go to Italy, and next year, I need to do this, you know, these are the steps I need to take to get to that specific place. Like you're directly, you know, so like even like saying like, oh, I want a job, you know, in this, you know, career or whatever. You can say that's technically an aspiration in a sense too, especially if you don't lay out the steps, right? You don't lay out what the goal is that you want to reach. And I still struggle with that, you know, like I've reached some goals while streaming, right? I said I'm gonna do this, and these are the steps I need to do to get there, and I did it, and I got it done. But then I started saying some vague shit, like, you know, like, oh, you know, I'd like to have, you know, a nice community. That'd be great, you know. But I wouldn't even think about all the steps. I'd just be like, oh, you know, that'd be nice. So that's an aspiration, but it's not a goal. You know what I mean?
And it's like vague.
Yeah. So it's just like kind of getting out of that, realizing that. And again, I'm still doing that, you know, I need to realize that. But I have that in my mind, like, oh, I need to start doing that more. I need to start writing down, like, okay, this is what I need to do specifically. This is what I need to start at. And so it's good to have aspirations, but then you got to break them down. I mean, it's just like we were saying earlier, you can always keep digging deeper and deeper into something, and that's kind of what you have to do with all this kind of stuff. You see the big picture, and then you start breaking down into little pieces. It's even something like culture, right? What is culture? Culture is a group of traditions. What is a tradition? In a sense, it used to be a sort of ritual, something you did over and over again. What is a ritual? A thing you do. It started out as a habit, right? Something people did often. What does a habit? You know, where does a habit come from? It's just somebody had a thought and they started thinking about it a lot and became a habit. You know, like it's just that, and eventually, you know, it goes all the way up to what we have now, society and all that. It's just a group of, you know, our culture is just a group of habits, a group of rituals, a group of traditions. You know, a group of thoughts. They started out as thoughts and it became this now, you know, like, so it's just kind of breaking things down into those little pieces and being like, okay, where do I start? How do I get to this bigger thing? You know?
Yeah, it can be a very daunting task, that's for sure.
Oh, of course, yeah. I have plenty of notebooks where I like break down tasks and I'm like, all right, time to get started. Fuck. Yeah, I'm not saying it as it's easy to do. It's just that that's kind of where you need to start at, and then from there you have to just. It's a matter of will. Are you gonna do it? And setting yourself up for success as well. That's a huge thing as well. Like, it's kind of the whole paying it forward. Like I was saying, you know, as a society, we need to learn to pay it forward. But you need to learn to pay it forward for yourself as well, right? Like, you got to think about every action you do, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna do something nice for myself right now, but is that gonna help future me? No, probably not. You know, it's just helping out present me to feel good and everything. But if I do something good that's gonna help out future me, like say, oh, I'm gonna start eating right. Oh, I'm gonna start working out. Oh, I'm gonna start working on this job. You know, that's gonna, you know, provide some money for future me. Then future me goes like, man, you know, past me did some good stuff. You know, I appreciate that. I should probably do that for the future me, you know, again. And it's like paying that forward. You're helping. It's like you're and that's why I always say, like, humans are kind of time travelers, right? Like, we need to think about the future version of ourselves and think about the past version of ourselves and be like, all right, can I help future me by learning from past me? Like, okay, I didn't like what past me did to, you know, present me. Can I use that and do better for future me, you know? And just thinking of it, paying that forward, you know? Otherwise, you turn into this, like, cycle of just like, well, past me didn't do shit for me, so I'm just gonna do something for me right now. And, you know, fuck future me, you know, he'll figure it out. And it just keeps, you know, you keep paying it forward in a maladaptive way. You're just like, all right, he'll figure it out. Oh no, he'll figure it out. You know, I'm sure we always do that, right? Like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. You know, I'm tired. I don't want to do that right now. So it's kind of getting into the attitude as well of paying it forward to your own self. That
like,
self.
Fuck future me.
Yeah, like, and even then, like, those things become habits, right? Those things become routines. Eventually, those things that you thought were gonna be really hard and stuff like that, you're just like, man, just do it like nothing, whatever. Oh shit, that's a lot of enemies. Who else messaging me?
Oh. Little jumpy things.
Little goblins.
Boom.
Yeah, who's alive still? Everyone. Alright.
How does that not take everything out? That attack always looks like it does a lot of damage.
These are super mega enemies, that's why. Yeah, I saw your message, Mr. Drake Riddle. Is it available on PC? Is it on, what is it, the Epic Store? I don't know where, I need to look it up. Does it have a story mode? Because if it's just multiplayer, maybe I'll play it for casual, but I didn't even know that game was still going on. I have a shirt for Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2. Also, repeating yourself doesn't do anything, by the way. I got your message already. It has a story? You say yes, but I asked like 5 different questions, so I don't know what you're saying yes to.
It reminds me of those like memes that are like oh, like blah blah blah, like something something, and then the answer is just like yes.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe it's yes to all of them.
You kill zombie or plant? Yeah, I know. No, I was reading them. I just didn't reply to them because I was just like, okay, yeah, he said that. I gotta probably do that. Which is my bad. I should have replied to it. But I was being lazy. So I'll take the blame for that one, my friend. I'll take the blame for that one. I should be a better YouTuber and actually reply to the comments. I do usually. It's just every time I saw it, I was like, you know, I'm making excuses right now. But I'll explain what's going through my head. Every time I saw it, I was laying in bed and I was just like, huh. He wants me to play Plants vs. Zombies too. I have a shirt that has that on there, and then I just fall asleep after. So, my bad, my bad. I'll look into it though, see if we can put it. Right now, our schedule's pretty full, but if we have a casual day, I'll see if I can fit it in there. It has a story mode. Okay, definitely then. We'll put it up. Maybe I can sneak it into... I know this sounds awful, but next year in April, which is Action April, I can sneak it in there. I apologize. I try to set a lot of things ahead of time, so... A lot of my
Be more
schedule.
spontaneous.
Like
Or
I
maybe
said,
not.
I could play play it casually as well. What is happening? What is going on?
I'm literally picking up my room right now.
It just made you think of that right now.
Yeah, I'm like, God damn,
I need to
like
pick up
yes,
my room too as well.
this is so cluttered. Like,
Hey,
I just found a poster.
Don't
I'm
you-
like, I totally forgot about.
see, you're a young kid, right, Drake? I can see that by the way you are comparing this game to Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2. They're not the same thing. You can't compare them. RPG with an action, first-person shooter? No. So you can't say that Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2 is objectively better than this game. I can't say this game is objectively better than that game either. Because they're not, you just can't compare them. This is a complete game. I'm sure that game is complete as well. You're not young? Then, well, you should
Your argument is invalid.
You're not young, you're 11. My dude, 11 is very young. What are you talking about?
Nah, the boy grown, all right?
You have a lot of youth, okay? It's not a bad thing that you're young. Honestly, that is actually amazing because that means you have plenty of potential to become an amazing human being. Like, you are just, like, ready. You're just... Get out there. Learn as much as you can, my friend. But what I'm trying to say is that you're still developing, like the way you argue and stuff like that. Because, like, that's why I'm trying to, like, let you know that you can't objectively compare these two because they're two different kind of, like, worlds in a sense.
Apples and oranges.
No, I'm not saying you don't know how to spell. It's just that, like, because I thought the same thing when I was a kid. I was just like, RPG is, ooh, a snooze fest. And now I'm just like, oh, geez, these are very interesting. It's like, getting into books, right? When you first see books, you're just like, God, I gotta go through this shit. Like, oh, man, excuse my language, by the way. I'm sorry. It's like, oh, I gotta go through this? Oh, man, that's a lot to go through, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this. But it's just you build yourself up to that. And I would say that's the same thing. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, I'm sure. He says I'm an old man and I don't know what I'm talking about.
You are old, Michael.
I know, I'm getting there.
Just look at you.
What I'm getting here, Drake, is that you're not listening to me at all and you're just wanting to argue your point. And, I understand. It's easier to do that. It's more efficient, right? Who wants to spend energy trying to overthink stuff? This guy does. But, alright. We'll let you have your way, because I ain't gonna argue with somebody that's not gonna listen. Not gonna consider my side either. What do they say I need to do? Okay, they're not gonna tell me again. Or all these chests that I can't get to. What's up?
Maybe you have to burn the things, or maybe it's like one of those
I'll have to go
games.
around.
What? You tried to go around the other one, it wouldn't let you.
No, I just
Maybe you did it wrong.
Yeah, I did it. There's another one over here.
Are you getting anything good?
Wow, you're resorting to attacking my character ad hominem. My friend, that's not how you get your way. If you really want me to play your game, then you shouldn't attack me. That's not how it works.
I think I've seen someone play it before.
I played a long time ago. I played it when it first came out, and that was years ago. Which is very interesting that he's really into it, because he's 11, so that means he's technically playing a really old game.
Man, you know how many people I think should play freaking Burnout? Burnout, specifically Burnout 3 Takedown. Right? That is, wait, was it 3 or was it 2? Shoot, I don't even know my own favorite game. But it was fantastic. I tried playing it again because I had, like, my sister had gotten, like, a PlayStation and I managed to get a copy and it looked absolutely terrible.
Oh my
I was like,
god.
how did I play this? I can't even see anything because the car's going so fast. Either that or I was just a better gamer back then, and I'm too old now. I'm an
Me
old
too.
man.
Nah, our eyes
Isn't that what they say about?
adjust.
Isn't that what they say about what's it called? Why like pro gamers or like reach like freaking 25 years old or something, and then they stop playing, or they stop being as competitive because like our reactionary, I forget how our brain works or something. Like our brain can't make the same level of reaction times that our younger brain could.
I'd agree with that, but I feel like the way to counter that is just that you just take care of your body and your brain, and you'd probably not be as slower than your younger self. Because honestly, I feel like I think way better than my younger self did.
Oh, it's not think. It's
Like
how
reaction
fast.
time, yeah.
Yeah. So like if you do the whole like what's it called? Like Osu, that game, the one where you like click on stuff.
You know
Like I
what?
see
Yeah, you know, I actually agree with that because I feel like if I went back to like Rock Band or something like that, I'd probably not be as good as it anymore than I
I
was when I
remember
was young.
that. Get the band back together. That's what it felt like sometimes. Oh man. They haven't made a new one of any of those, huh?
No.
Or at least that I've seen people play. That's nuts.
I'm not
Anyway,
ignoring chat.
so
I'm reading all the things you said, sir.
still there, huh?
Yeah, he's wanting attention right now.
Gotta interact with your audience. I was cleaning stuff up and I forgot I had bought this little print of it's artwork, not from the show, but like that Eureka 7 thing that I pointed out at the
Uh-huh.
very beginning. Yeah, I'd gotten like a little like fake uh tourism poster that says "Adventures begin in Bell Forest," and then it has like a quote from the show. Damn, why did I have this hiding up freaking in these shelves collecting dust? Oh hey, if any advice I could give to my younger self would be keep every damn thing, become a hoarder, pick everything, seal everything, airtight, keep it all. Cause it'd all be super valuable. Like if there was ever like Roblox action figures, I'd tell kids like collect those, get them all, and seal them away forever. Hide them away from the sun. Those things are gonna be worth millions.
Just like the Pokemon cards.
Yeah. Part of me wants to sell mine, but I'm like, no. I like my cards, but ever since like the whole boom, like they've jumped in price because I got them earlier on in the pandemic.
Sorry, let me see what Drake has to say. Drake, I'm not banning you, dude. I feel like you're fighting with yourself right now. Like you're just yelling out opinions, but you're like I'm reading what you're saying, but you're not leaving any room for anybody to say anything, so are you okay? Do you need to talk about something besides why Roblox sucks and I should play Fortnite? I don't know. When people get like this, I never feel angry about it. You know what I mean? It's just I always wonder what's going on with this person. You know, especially at age 11, I'm a little concerned.
Are you being ageist right now, Michael?
No,
The ageism
everyone
police are gonna
does
come
this.
get
It
you.
doesn't matter what age. I don't want the ageist police.
Oh yeah, I remember having a conversation with someone about that. How like I feel like when I don't know enough about something,
Mm.
where I can't discuss something, right? I can only argue, and hell, I can even barely argue. There's only like two outcomes. Like one is it's because I'm talking or having a conversation with someone where like I or they don't know enough about something, to really have like an informed opinion or be able to really talk about it. But we don't want to admit it, right? So we get really frustrated. Like one of us, usually it's me because I don't know what I'm talking about. And I get really frustrated and I get mad, and it's not like I'm mad at the person. It's more of just like, I don't have any other way to respond, to whatever it is they're saying, or I don't have anything else I can say. So I just get very like almost defensive, I guess, in a way.
Well, it can be frustrating when like it's a natural thing for the brain to feel frustrated when it's like losing control, and that tends to happen, like when we start losing that control over our environment, our conversation.
And I also get angry when I don't want my mind to be changed about something, or like I refuse to. So I refuse to listen to them or allow them to be, even talk or express whatever it is they want to express. So I just get angry and like, storm off or something.
Yeah.
It's not a very good habit to have. Dang.
Yeah, that was something I did a lot too, back in the day. I've been more and more trying to avoid that, over emotional like reactions. And it's, they say that emotional reactions actually react for about 90 seconds. So, and I think I mentioned it to you, maybe. I feel like I talked to somebody recently about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like, you want to avoid triggering more emotional responses, otherwise is back to back to back to back. Yeah, sure, the emotional response only lasts for about 90 seconds, but it's gonna be back to back to back. You keep letting things get to you. Like our friend here. He says that you don't like me and that I probably paid you to be here.
How did he know? Ooh, speaking of not liking people, fuck, what was it? Sorry, excuse my language. I was watching like a news channel on YouTube, and there was one of the things that he was talking about was that there was a study that had been made, that they basically like did like this questionnaire and asked people, would you, first of all, would you consider yourself to have, like, do you have a best friend, and like fewer people, I guess they had done this study before, like 10 or so years ago, and like basically this year, like around this time, there's like fewer people that have said that they have a best friend, and also fewer people that said, like significantly fewer people that have said that they have more than 10 close friends. And like that spoke to me personally, because I'm like, I can count all the friends I have in my hands. And like have some left over. Like I don't have that many people I would consider myself to be close with.
That's actually something I'm starting to think more about too. Like I used to really easily consider people my friends, and I'm starting to more and more now like kind of define, and that, okay, so that's a thing I actually been wanting to talk about. But before we get into that, yeah, Drake, freaking Jose over here saying bad words. What's wrong with you, man?
Sorry, man.
God.
I've been watching too many other streamers that say nothing but bad words. My bad. It's rubbing off.
Oh, he also said you have no friends.
Yeah, that would be incorrect, because I just said I can count them on my hands.
We already established he's not listening.
There's nothing wrong with following along, It's entertaining me.
What I was trying to say is that that was something I want to talk about, is like how we can confuse and I mentioned this a lot on the stream, is the difference between vocabulary and terminology, right? And that's the thing that's a little worrisome, is that we can often have different terminology but the same vocabulary, and we repeat vocabulary to other people thinking they're going to understand our terminology. And a lot of these things are very colloquial, or idiocentric, where like it's something that only we understand. It's like an inside joke in a sense, but in a definition of a word. So like it's like when somebody says, oh, I love this, whatever, they use love for everything, right? And that word love has a different terminology in each of these contexts, you know. And it's like, you know, some people are just like, oh, what do they mean by that? Like, what is that? You know, do they really love that? But, you know, after a while, we kind of get that, you know, when we spend a lot of time with that person. So, oh shoot, I can't do magic with this thing. Oh, it's kissing me.
You're gonna die.
So I just find that interesting that is a little worrisome. So that it kind of circles back to let me heal myself really quick, or not. I'm just gonna kill my friends. You know what? Fuck them up. Again, excuse me, bad language. You're in 5th grade. Nice, man. Keep it up. Get through school. Oh, I'm gonna die. Shite.
I don't know about you, but I do not remember anything about 5th grade. Not a thing.
Do I have a girlfriend? No, never know. Honestly, though, I didn't really need one right now. I don't look like a girl. Girls don't have beards.
Girls be wasting your time. Hey, some girls can have beards.
You know, you're right. That's sexist of me to say. But anyways, like I said, the reason I was bringing it up was because, oh my god, this thing's back. My terminology for friend is starting to change. Like before, like everyone I feel like has a different terminology for those kind of words, right? Like even for friend, like I feel like a lot of people have different meanings to what friend is. Because what does a friend do? I'm sure if you asked everybody, they would all say different things, right? Like, oh, they're there for you, you know, they got your back when you need it, you know. Some people might be like, oh, you know, you talk to them every day or like every other week or something like that. You know, best friend would probably be like the everyday thing. But even then, even with best friend, right? You'd be like, oh yeah, that person's my best friend. It's like, well, when do you guys talk? Oh, probably once a year because I'm very busy, you know. But you have other people who will be like, oh, you know, if they're your best friend, you have to talk to them every day. You know, you always gotta let them know what's going on. You know, and so that's why I'm saying, like, and I think that causes a lot of the miscommunication. Well, hey, we don't hate here, man. You hate gay people? Come on, dude. We can't have any of that there. This is not the place for that, man. Sorry. I'm gonna warn you right now once. I know you said you don't want me to ban you, but you can't be saying things like that, dude. But anyways, so yeah, what do you think about that though? Like that whole idea, like everyone has like a different terminology for friend, and I think that causes a lot of miscommunication because one person has these expectations of what friends should be, and then this other person has a different expectation of what friends should be, and then those, you know, collide with each other, and they're just like, oh, you're not being a friend to me. It's like, well, you know, my definition of friend is totally different. I feel like I'm being a friend to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I've kind of had this this very chaotic approach to friendships. Like anytime like anyone's talked to me about like any problems they've had with people, I'm just like, dump them, get them out of here, get them out of here, block them on every social media, like unfriend them, delete their phone number, block their phone number if you can, like God. Get rid of it completely. Like
I hate that. I actually really dislike that kind of mentality.
Yeah, but
I mean that doesn't mean I don't like you, but it's just like I don't like that approach. It's just not my thing.
I do see your point, but at the same time, I have not a single person in my life that I don't have like unconditional like love for, right? Like because what I found is that like when you first start talking to someone, you don't know them, right? You're friends with them. You let's say you're friends with them, right? You're friends with them for a week. You don't know them. You're friends with them for a month. You don't know them, right? You don't know that person until you know them, right?
Yeah.
Like when you find out that someone's actually racist, that someone's actually like homophobic, that someone's actually really toxic to like with their other friends, or like they're manipulative, like blah 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 blah, like any of those things, like why would you choose to surround yourself with those kinds of people? And there is something to be said about like, oh well, you know, you should educate people, that you should try to like change their mind, you know, blah blah blah, you know, you should be the better person, all this stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I could see that because for a while I thought that too. I thought my job, or not my job, but that I should try to convince people, to not be hateful, you know, and not to use their religion as a crutch,
But see,
as a little
yeah,
shield that they hide behind.
but see, that's like
Um,
going in the opposite direction, right? There's completely block them off, don't talk to them, screw them, and then there's like, you have to save them, you have to do everything you can to be there for them, which was how I used to be. But I realize now, like, oh no, I gotta, I don't want to be completely like, like drop somebody completely or anything, but I'm also not gonna be there for them and try to save them, save their life, whatever. Tell them I know better, whatever, Oh, that didn't do any damage.
but it's kind of like how, like, if you're not vibing with something, like, why would you choose to stay there? Like, there are people that I've gone, on either a date with or whatever, and like wherever we go, like the food's bad. The food is obviously bad. The service is bad. It's too expensive. Blah blah blah. Why would I choose to then not only stay there but come back? Why would I choose to give this business more business?
Yeah.
Like, why? No one would. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like, it's not my job to make your business better. It's not my job to like sit here and tell you how to run your business either. If I don't like it, I'm just not gonna come back. I'm not gonna give you more business. So I treated like my friendships the same way, or like the people I would meet, like if they were obviously toxic or obviously blah blah blah, like I would just completely distance myself, like completely far removed, like not even try to have a conversation with them ever again.
I feel like that analogy doesn't necessarily, or that comparison doesn't necessarily fit, only because I feel like it's kind of that, like, suffering from the forest resemblance. Remember we talked about that? Because in a sense, I feel like when it comes to that kind of stuff, like say at that restaurant, right? Why would I go back to a restaurant that, served me really crappy food, whatever, but maybe if you're like interested in how businesses work, or you're interested in culinary or something like that, you would go there to kind of get an experience and be like, okay, maybe this is something I don't want. What do they do to, to get this, this food that I don't like? Why don't I like it? To get that experience. Maybe you can talk to the chef and be like, hey, what's going on with this and everything. Of course, there's a shitty person, then you're just gonna be like, all right, well, now I'm completely out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's more to it. And I feel like with friendships and stuff like that, yeah, there are some people out there that you meet that you're just like, all right, I have no reason to be around this person or whatever. But I feel like there are times where you do need to really think about, like, and this kind of sounds like really selfish, but is there anything I can get out of this relationship at all? You know what I mean? Like, is there, any information, any experience or any joy I can get out of this? No? Okay, then I'll leave. But if, if there's like, for me, I guess if there's like a little information, a little inkling I can, get out of it, if there's something I can share with this person, if they're open to have me share and stuff like that, then I'll keep them around. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess I'm more charitable when it comes to that kind of stuff, and so that's why I say it's like, I feel like it's not, in a sense, the same thing, I guess, because it just depends on the person who's approaching that situation.
I think for me, like initially, it's like, oh well, okay, sure, yeah, like a business is not necessarily like, how can you compare a business to like a friend, right? And I always choose to like fucking try to compare things, because I feel like
that's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's a good way to try to explain things. That's how stuff like runs in my brain. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I were to go to like a business to like eat there or whatever, like I'm going there because I'm interested, right? So I feel like that's a good comparison with friendships, because like, if obviously I'm going to consider somebody a friend, it's because I'm interested in them, right?
Yeah.
To some degree, like I get along with them. I think they're funny, they're really cool. They're really smart. Whatever. There's something I like about them, because obviously you have to like your friends.
Yeah. Well, and again, that goes back to the, like I said, everyone has different terminology for what a friend is, right? I'm not saying what you do is like, like don't do that. No, it's just like, that's not just the way I see friends. It's different. But yet we're still friends, So like that works. I'm just saying that there are situations where the friend thing doesn't fit, and then it causes miscommunication and then a falling out and stuff, because one friend has more expectations of another friend because their terminology of a friend is way different than somebody else's terminology. And of course, that goes
Mhm.
through a lot of psychology and stuff as well. You know, like what causes that person to have that terminology for that word friend. Oh, I turned the game off. We're gonna about to end it right now. We are about 16 minutes over right now. So, but
Not allowed.
but yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's again, it goes back to the what we were saying. Like you can keep digging into things, and there's just so much
Yeah.
to it, so
You
much to
know
talk about.
how have you ever felt and I feel like you felt this. I feel like most people have this feeling because you've met somebody, let's say a girl or
Uh huh.
whatever. Most of the time it is, and her boyfriend is terrible, right? He's
Yeah.
terrible to her, blah blah blah. And you're like, why are you still with him? Like even if you don't tell her that, you think it. Why are you still with him? Like he's obviously abusing you or like whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of different things that happen. And you're like, why are you still? You see it in movies, and you're like, girl, leave. Or like sometimes it's the guy, and you're like, dude, why are you still with this girl? She doesn't let you play games. She doesn't let you have time with like hanging out with your friends. Like, why are you spending
Yeah.
time? Like, why are you bothering with her? Like either try to like sit down and talk to her or like leave. Like, why would you, put yourself through this, right?
Yeah.
And I think it comes out of that frustration because at least in like high school, like back before I even had like any kind of relationships or whatever, I would be the person that people would like talk to, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, not that I had the answers or anything. I'm not some freaking love guru, but they'd come and tell me, and like in my mind, I'd be like, "Why are you wasting your time with this boy? Like,
Yeah.
he's clearly out of his mind. Like, he clearly is not interested in you, or he doesn't love you, or like he doesn't care. Like, you're wasting your time. I don't get it. Like, girl, leave him." And I think maybe like those experiences, probably paired with a bunch of other things, has led me to have this like mentality of like, if you are gonna waste my time with nothing but like negative
Yeah.
experiences, like not that like, it's not so much like I don't want to hear like people talk about negative stuff. It's more of like you're being negative towards me, or I'm just having a negative experience with you. um why should I waste my time with this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I should just like, you're obviously not like the person I'm in love with, or anything like that, so like I won't go to like those, great lengths. If you like my family, like there are parts of, some family members that I have very strong opinions about, but they are my family, so I would be willing, because I have that like that love for them, right? Because I grew up with them and like blah blah blah. Like I would go above. I would go further than normal, with a stranger or with someone I barely met, to try to reach out to them, and like whether it's try to convince them or have a conversation about something, something like, them being homophobic or racist or something like that,
Yeah.
um, than I would with other people. So I do see how like some people might value friendships to that level, and they'd be willing to like go like a little bit further and have a conversation, like bother having a conversation with someone about those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things, or something else, right? To try to convince them, or try to understand like, where they're coming from, and see if you can find a way to bring them to whatever you think is right.
Mm-hmm.
I know it goes back to the whole like, oh well, like whose morals are right and all that, like blah blah. Like I get that, you know. But I guess
Yeah.
I can't help but think that like, if something is hurting someone, it's wrong, and that's just it, right? Like there's no like, like, oh well, maybe you can make an exception for the people that like, don't like agree with gay marriage or something, or like the people that don't agree with trans rights and things like that, or don't believe in the Black Lives Matter movement, and
At the end of the
I can't.
day, it just matters what, like you said, what your morals are. You know.
I feel like it's not about morals, because I don't see it as morals. I don't see
So
it as
okay,
morally wrong, you know.
do you think murdering somebody is morally wrong?
I don't think it has anything to do with morals.
What do you think it has to do with it?
I think that causing pain on someone else shouldn't, like, that shouldn't happen, because I know it is a negative thing, a thing that hurts.
So
Like getting killed is not a like, oh, it's a peaceful thing. You know what I mean? Like getting murdered is not a peaceful
So
thing.
like purposefully causing pain onto somebody else. But what if a lot of these, okay, so like murder, yeah, it'd be purposefully, right? What if a lot of these conversations and negative things, they're not purposeful? They're just,
It's still something that
a
shouldn't
result.
happen.
Uh,
It's not in the like I couldn't possibly get into like the whole ethics of like, the whole what is it, the train
because
thing?
I feel like at this point it's kind of leading into that self-righteous behavior where you're just like, it's just, like it has to be like this. It's just the way, and it's just like,
Well,
who's,
it's like if how do I explain this? Like if I was seeing something, right? Seeing someone get murdered,
uh-huh.
and I didn't, and if I felt like I had no reason or like no emotional, like whatever, like I didn't want to do anything about it, you know, like that to me feels like wrong in our nature, right? It's not about like morals, it's just like a nature thing, like you could call it self-preservation, I guess, but like it's more about like if you see something, or you think about something happening, if you inherently don't
Oh,
want it to happen, not that you think like, oh, it's some grand like, ethical and moral
oh,
obligation to blah blah blah. It's nothing about that. It's just that
uh-huh.
like you it's like when you first like, hurt yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You wish it didn't happen because it hurts, right? It hurts.
Yeah.
It sends signals up your spine, blah blah blah, whatever, And like the first time you get heartbreak, right? You don't wish for that to happen on anyone, like initially, right? You don't think
Yeah.
like, oh man, I wish everyone could experience this. This is great. It's not. It's a negative thing. It's not that like somebody told you that that was something that shouldn't happen. It's just something you internally feel that it shouldn't happen, or not that it shouldn't. It's more like you don't want it to, right? And when you see someone else experience the same thing, it hurts. It's kind of like the whole like
That's
you ever
empathy.
watch, yeah, if you watch videos of like someone getting their like nuts, like
Yeah,
damage,
you
like
have that
you
empathy
feel
towards
it,
them. Yeah.
you feel it. You're like like
It's
oh dude, that looks
it's
so bad.
that's pretty much like they're starting to disprove this though. There's more to it. Um I don't think it is mirror neurons. It's something else. Because I know they said mirror neurons are not exactly what makes us feel for other people, but there's a part of our brain that, like, when we see things happening to other people, there's a part of our brain that lights up and goes, "Okay, like I can feel that." Like, and you start feeling that for that person. Like, "Oh man, I feel their pain." Like, oh, there are some people that have damage in that part of the brain, and so they don't have that same reaction to those kind of people. So like we have to consider that as well. So I get what you're saying with the whole nature thing. Like yeah, it's in our nature. Yeah, it's in our DNA. It's like we're coded to kind of feel that way. But I mean, there's a lot of people who have
Until you start to feel differently.
well, it's just like some people might have messed up DNA or something like that that doesn't allow them to feel that way or something like that, or just psychologically they've been taught to be a different thing. Um, is that inherently like bad or evil? No, it's just they got a different brain.
See,
And
I also don't believe it's inherently bad or evil,
mm,
if they don't feel that way. But at that point, with that specific, right? With being
mm,
that specific, it's more about like what currently is happening with like accessibility, right? With people that have like some type of impairment or whatever. It's not about like, oh hey, just throw them in the garbage, you
mm,
know? And it's not even so much as like specifically, because I feel like most of the time these conversations are all about, when it comes to accessibility anyway, it's always about like, oh, we have to accommodate them, we have to accommodate them. And like, yes, that is a solution, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily require us to like specifically like accommodate them. It's more about I forget what it was called, but it was the whole um equality versus like a bunch of other like different terms or whatever. I forget which one it is. There's like an was it an analogy or something where like there's like people, there's like a fence, or like a
mm.
picket fence, and then there's someone who's really tall and can see. There's someone who's like medium height and can barely see, and then there's someone
Yeah, I've
who's
seen
really
that
short and
picture.
can't
Yeah.
see. Yeah, exactly. So it's similar to that where they're just like, just get rid of the fence, you know, make it a chain link fence, You know, because some people are like accommodating someone would be like, oh, just give them a box to stand on so that
Yeah.
they can see the game, and the getting rid of the fence altogether is like where sometimes it should be, right?
Mm.
And I see it in that I would see it in that kind of way, in that specific like situation or whatever.
Mm.
Um, but I think past this, it gets into a realm where I have no knowledge and no experience whatsoever to like continue the conversation, and I'll just start to yell at you.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting thing.
Hmm.
I want to keep reading about it and learning more about it. As much as I like
Yeah.
biology and all that too, nutrition and everything, the human brain's the one I want to focus the most on. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if I don't have a conscience and everything, then I don't really care. Because I won't care. I mean, I will,
Hey, you wouldn't be conscious.
yeah. So I want to know more and more how this consciousness works, so I can understand. I can have they call it the theory of mind. You have a more of a theory of mind, which means like, so like we develop it as a baby, right? Like when we start getting older and become like a toddler and stuff like that, we start building a theory of mind. So a theory of mind would be like, say like somebody has like a treat or a toy or something like that, right? Puts it in one box A, and says, "Where is the toy?" And tells the kid, "Oh, it's right there in box A," and says, "Okay." And say like there's another person in the room. It's like, "All right, so everyone knows it's in box A." It's like, "Yeah, everyone knows it's in box A." And then they say the guy walks out of the room, and then the scientist or whatever, the person, takes that toy out, puts it in box B, and says, "All right, where's the toy?" And he says, "Okay." The kid sees it and he goes, "It's box B now." And it's like, "All right, do you think the scientist knows it's in box B?" Like, "Yeah." It was like, "Of course, because it's in box B. Everyone knows it's in box B now. You moved it. I saw it. Everyone knows it's in box B." They don't have that theory of mind. They don't understand, like, oh, this person isn't in the room. They didn't see that it's box B. It's kind of like when a kid comes home and from school and says like, "Oh, my teacher was awesome," or they don't even say my teacher. They say Miss Rosenberg was amazing, like, but everyone knows Miss Rosenberg's amazing. Like they're not even gonna tell you like, "Who's Miss Rosenberg?" "Oh, my teacher." You know that, right? It's that kind of idea, and we a lot of us keep
Ah.
that as we get older, right? We just assume everyone knows these things, and that's developing that theory of mind, is just understanding, like, wait, no, not everybody knows this. Like people are just like, "What's your
Uh-huh.
favorite music?" It's like, "Oh, this band." Is like, "Wow, you like that band?" Like everyone knows that band sucks. It's like, no, not everyone does. Like it gets more advanced as you get older, right? There's more things that you need to be more aware of, but that starts showing people's like lack of theory of mind. There's like people just start losing that, or not losing it, they just never got to that point where they developed that. Like I have people that I talk to, and some of the things they say to me, I'm just like, "You still working on that, right?" Like in my head I'm saying that, I'm like, they're still working on it. Like I'm not gonna fault them for that, because I had a lot
That's
of issues with that as
funny.
well. Like I
Yeah.
had an assumption that like, "Oh yeah, everyone knows this, everyone is a good person, everyone should be a good person, everyone should be working towards being a good person." It's like, no, that's just you and a couple people you've met that also believed in the same thing, and you're applying it to everybody. People think very differently, and you need to understand that. And I was like able to tell myself that. I'm like, okay, so now I come across everybody, I'm just like, okay, how do you think? I want to know how you think. What's going on in your head? Because I don't know that. You know what I mean? So like, it's developing the theory of mind, and I want to keep developing my theory of mind because I don't want to fall into that place. That's why, like, like I said, like when people come on here and they attack me and stuff like that, I don't go, "Ah, yeah, don't attack me." I'm just like, okay, what's going on here? What is this person thinking? Because obviously I don't agree with them. Like we have completely different opinions, but it doesn't mean I'm right. Like I said, what's causing them to think that, and it's having tools like fallacies, cognitive distortions, things like like all this psychological stuff, or even you know just information in general, like having science, having law, having that's why it's good to keep reading and understanding research and information, because when you have these conversations with people, you develop more of that theory of mind. It's like, oh, okay, this person's an expert on this, so obviously they're probably going to know more than this than I do, but it doesn't mean they know everything. I understand that. You know, it's like going to a doctor, and this is again an example of theory of mind. You know, when like a doctor like ends up killing their patient or something like that, it's like they should have been able to do it. They should have been able to save this person. You know, like they should have been, able to, cure everything. And it's like, no, they're human. They could make a mistake just as much as you can. Of course, it's not to excuse that if they messed up or something like that, but understand that they are capable of messing up. It's not impossible. Because I feel like a lot of the times we do kind of have that trust in everybody, and that kind of leads to a lot of really bad situations. Just like parents letting like doctors or trainers and stuff, or like Boy Scouts and everything, like these people, these adults, molesting their children, and just like, well, I just assumed that they were the leader, they were in a good place, I trusted them, they default to truth and everything. It's like, no, everyone's capable of terrible things, these terrible things that you don't want to happen to your kids. It doesn't mean you have to distrust everyone you meet. It's just that keep an
Yeah.
open mind, like be aware, be attentive, be perceptive, because like some of these things would happen right in front of the parents. Like the doctors would touch their kids right in front of their parents, and they'd just be like, oh well, he's a doctor, he probably knows what he's doing, I'm not going to question it. Like, no, question it, it's okay. You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah, theory of mind is a very interesting concept. We don't, I mean, of course we don't 100% understand it, but we have like an inkling of what it is. It's kind of like with gravity, right? Like we don't really 100% understand what gravity is, but we kind of have an idea. Like, yeah, it brings us down, and we got to be careful, otherwise we die. We go too high up and then fall back down again because of potential
Yeah.
energy and all that stuff. So like theory of mind's kind of the same thing. It's just like we kind of have an idea of what it is. Like it's we know it's there, but we don't understand what exactly it is. We just know that we develop it and we get better at it if we start considering more and more stuff, more and more variables when it comes to conversation and communication, all that stuff. So, yeah. Heuristics. No, I was kidding. But alright, I'm gonna get going. Thanks everybody for watching. Jose, do you have any closing thoughts before we go? I know we had like a 30-minute conversation after the game, but
No, just thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me bombard you with
I love it, dude.
different things that I've learned.
I know it probably seemed like I was like not paying attention half of that, but my brain, I was trying to like process the game I was playing. Honestly, that's what I feel like this channel's all about. Is just like, can I do both? And I hope I did a great job of keeping the conversation with you. But
Yeah, no, it was great.
I enjoyed it very much. The I don't know if I said it right. Biofabrication.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting concept, and I'm really excited to see more of it. And it's been going on for like what? Like with the whole Neri thing was like 2014, right? Or was it earlier than
yeah,
that?
and
Yeah.
there's stuff that's been going on earlier than that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like, when does it really? When do things really start?
Yeah. Right. That's why history is always being
Yeah.
discussed.
It's like we thought electric cars were a new thing, but then you look at like freaking 1980 something, or
Mm-hmm.
like not even further than that, like black and white pictures of like battery powered cars, but they only
Yeah.
went like 5
But
miles.
I mean, it's just like look at airplanes, right? Like Leonardo da Vinci a long time ago was just like, yeah, like it'd be cool, we could fly. There was a guy during not medieval times, but like during like the 1800s, I think. No, not even 1800s. It was like during the 1700s, where he was telling the king like, hey, I think we can fly. He looked at birds and he was just like, man, it'd be really cool if we could fly. And he attached a bunch of hen feathers to himself and made a suit of feathers. It was just like, I think I can fly now, just like the birds. I'm gonna use these feathers. Of course he didn't understand that birds have hollow bones and they don't have resistance and all that as much as we do. And he fell and hurt himself, and the kings laughed at him and was just like, yeah, don't try this shit ever again, thanks. But like he was thinking about it, and I'm sure like some prehistoric person, was just like looked at a bird and was just like, man, if only I could do that. So like again, like you said, you never know when it started. It's just like philosophy. It's just like the stuff I'm talking about right now. Like where do you think I got it from? Somebody a long time ago thought about it, was just like, yeah, this is cool, and somebody probably before him thought about that too. And the cycle continues.
Oh
and
yeah.
and we never truly know where it starts, and we never know when it's gonna end. It just keeps going. Anyways, y'all, I'll leave you guys with that. You guys have a wonderful night. I'll be back tomorrow. We have a special guest coming tomorrow. We're gonna continue Chrono Trigger. I'm gonna look up a guide because I don't want to be freaking lost. Because at the end there, I was kind of lost. I don't know what I was doing. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys take care. Bye bye.